I'm Kaya, and I'm going to be talking about my research paper tentatively entitled Freaks and Their Freaking, which is coming from a newspaper article quote that I'm using in my research paper. My research question is, why was the wardrobe of women's college students, and specifically Wellesley College students, under such scrutiny and close examination in the mid 1900s, and how were these wardrobes influenced? I think this is important to ask because clothing historically has had both the power to liberate and the power to control bodies. And Wellesley College is an institution prided by both its students and its faculty members and greater community in being a place where students feel comfortable and free to express themselves in really any venue that they can imagine. And a common first year experience that me and my classmates kind of noticed at the beginning of the semester was this feeling of being much more free to wear what you want and to wear what you're comfortable in. And I think it's important to examine the roots of this feeling by really examining a time in Wellesley's history where the opposite was true and the power of clothing leaned more towards controlling than liberating. And in response to this question, I'm arguing that though it may seem like direct regulation by college administration would be the main influencer in Wellesley College students' wardrobes, there are in fact very few written regulations or policies that were imposed on the students at Wellesley. And in the mid 1900s, wartime ideology, changing women's roles, and students begging to break from traditionalist ideals contributed to this culture where their wardrobe became a national interest. So instead of dress codes, there were these external and internal pressures that were shaping and conflicting with what students wore, what they didn't wear, and ultimately what they thought they should wear. So that's basically my thesis. And to elaborate, the pressures that I specifically focus on having this large influence on the Wellesley College students' dress include community members of the town of Wellesley, other colleges, specifically coeducational colleges, but also women's colleges, faculty and staff within the college, national media sources, and also retailers. And a lot of the primary source materials that I was working with to shape my argument came from public opinion on a trend called shirt tails and dungarees, which is basically really baggy men's button-up shirts and loose-fitting jeans. And surprisingly, this seemingly insignificant trend made national news, garnered tons of attention. So this is one of the central pieces that advances my argument. And my analysis for why this time period created such a perfect occasion for Wellesley dress becoming such a public interest kind of talks about how a certain image of women's college students was being thoroughly perpetrated through the media, and how educated women were kind of taking on non-traditional roles post-wartime and during wartime, and how this was perceived as a threat, and finally how students were kind of generating these new ideas about femininity and who they were dressing for.